Presidential Activity, August 2019. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received senior advisor to the U.S. President, Jared Kushner, affirming Egypt's support for all efforts to reach a just and comprehensive settlement to the Palestinian issue and pushing forward efforts to revive the peace process between the Palestinian and Israeli sides. During his meeting with the Prime Minister, the Ministers of State for Military Production and Transport, and the chairman of the Arab Organization for Industrialization, President Sisi directed the continuation of the ongoing efforts to shift from assembling to industrialization and the localization of the transport industry in Egypt, in cooperation with major international companies. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister and the Ministers of Housing, Utilities, Urban Communities and Transport in the presence of the President of Bombardier International Transport Company. The meeting witnessed the latest developments related to joint cooperation with the company in monorail train projects. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received Sultan of Brunei Hassan Bolkiah. During the meeting, the President expressed his aspiration to develop bilateral cooperation with Brunei in various fields, in addition to attracting more Brunei investments. President Sisi met with Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli and a number of ministers and senior officials. The meeting dealt with the follow-up activities of the Egyptian presidency of the African Union during the current year and since last February. President Sisi received Director General of China Hutchison Ports Group, Eric Eby, and CEO of the company, Clemence Ching. The meeting witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Egyptian Navy and the company to establish a container terminal at the port of Abu Qir. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi witnessed the opening of the complex of phosphate and compound fertilizers in Al Ain al-Sukhna. The President affirmed that any bureaucratic or administrative measures that could delay any project should be overcome. Such complexes are an attempt to take advantage of existing Egyptian raw materials and convert them with added value in a way to stop importing such products and push exporting the surplus abroad. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi toured the Mas Al Alamein resort. The President listened to a detailed explanation of the various components of the resort. He was briefed on the progress and development of the construction process of the city and the extent of achievements that took place in the resort. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi inspected the greenhouse projects at Mohammed Naguib Base by plane. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi inaugurated a number of national projects, including 1,300 greenhouses, in addition to a factory for mobilizing and packaging the products from the project, in addition to a complex for producing seeds. President Sisi witnessed the activities of Egypt's celebration of Science Day at Al Munara Center. He has honored a number of scientists who have won various state awards from university professors and research centers. The President stressed in his speech during the celebration of Science Day that interest in education, scientific research, and innovation was and is and will ever be one of the most important priorities of the state, and hence he was keen to meet young innovators to listen to their ideas and problems and the best ways to support them. The President received the national handball team who won the World Cup. The national handball team won the 2019 World Cup after beating Germany 30-28. The President awarded them the first-class sport medal. President Sisi held a meeting with Major General As-Said Al-Ghali, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Fund to Honor Martyrs, Victims, Missing Persons, and Victims of Military, Terrorist, and Security Operations and their families. During the meeting, the General reviewed the establishment of a fund to honor martyrs and the wounded, and the mechanisms of its operation and financing. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Education and Technical Education. The meeting discussed the latest developments of the national project for the development of education in Egypt, as well as the preparations for the new academic year. During his meeting with the Prime Minister and Ministers of Finance, Health and Population, President Sisi instructed to ensure the comprehensive and successful implementation of the comprehensive health insurance system in all aspects. President Sisi met with the Prime Minister, Minister of Communications, and Director of the Department of Systems and Information of the Armed Forces. The meeting dealt with the follow-up of the executive position of the ICT sector projects, on top of which is the transition of the government to the new administrative capital.
President Sisi witnessed Judge Dr. Abu Bakr Siddiq Muhammad Amir Rizq taking the oath as head of the State Lawsuits Authority. President Sisi received the President of the Togolese National Assembly, Yawad Sigan. The meeting dealt with means of boosting bilateral relations in various fields, especially at the parliamentary level. The meeting also touched on ways of enhancing joint African action in light of Egypt's presidency of the African Union. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi arrived in the French city of Biarritz to participate in the G7 summit. Sisi received the Italian Prime Minister on the sidelines of the summit, during which they reviewed ways of developing economic, trade and investment relations between the two countries. The meeting also discussed a number of regional and international issues. The President also received the Presidents of Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa and Burkina Faso. The President explained during the meeting that it aims to coordinate and consult before starting the summit, highlighting the importance of emphasizing the essence of the relationship between the continent and its international partners, being a partnership based on equality and common interests of both sides. In his speech to the partnership session with Africa, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi called for the need to work together to find solutions to the challenges facing Africa, maintain security and stability in Africa, promote the continent and fight terrorism. President Sisi met with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and discussed ways to strengthen the frameworks of cooperation between the two countries in Africa in the light of the current Egyptian presidency of the African Union and the initiative of Africa's partnership with the G20, which was presented by Germany in 2017. President Sisi met with the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and discussed regional and international issues of common concern, including efforts to combat terrorism. On the sidelines of the summit, President Sisi met with the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, and discussed developments in various regional and international issues of common concern, including the Palestinian issue. The President affirmed Egypt's support for all sincere efforts to find a just and comprehensive solution to the Palestinian issue. They also touched on combating terrorism. President Sisi met with the French President Emmanuel Macron. They discussed ways to boost bilateral relations, especially on the economic level. They also discussed African-French relations and exchanged views on developments of the situation in Libya. Speaking at the Climate, Biodiversity and Oceans session at the G7 summit in France, the President affirmed Egypt's accession to the Minsk Charter, believing in the necessity of preserving biodiversity as an essential element for achieving sustainable development. President Sisi arrives in Japan to attend the Tokyo International Conference on African Development. President Sisi held a wide-ranging summit discussions with the Japanese Prime Minister. The meeting witnessed a review of ways to support Japanese-African partnership. The meeting also reviewed a number of issues related to bilateral cooperation in various fields. Sisi met with the President of the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, and he thanked the President of the agency for the assistance provided to Egypt in the framework of development projects that it has implemented in many fields, pointing to the availability of many other domains of cooperation between the two countries. President Sisi met with the President of Hiroshima University. During the meeting, he affirmed the Egyptian government's interest in developing the higher education and scientific research sector, expressing his appreciation for Japan's continued support for projects related to improving education, higher education, and scientific research in Egypt. During his meeting with the Japanese Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Sisi expressed his appreciation for the efforts of the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry in promoting economic and trade relations between the two countries, pointing to the promising investment opportunities for Japanese investors in Egypt in various sectors. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with the Secretary General of the United Nations. The President affirmed that the objective of deepening the strategic partnership between the African Union and the United Nations is one of the top priorities of the current Egyptian presidency of the African Union. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and the Japanese Prime Minister launched a business dialogue session between the public and private sectors. In his speech, President Sisi stressed that achieving a strong economic start is no longer the responsibility of governments only, but requires a constructive partnership with the private sector. During his meeting with the Ugandan president, Sisi praised the vital role he plays as one of the wise leaders in Africa. Talks between the two presidents dealt with means of boosting bilateral relations, as well as the Nile water file, where it was agreed to support the development march of the Nile Basin countries. During his meeting with the Zambian president, Sisi praised the strong relations between the two countries, stressing the special importance Egypt attaches to enhancing aspects of cooperation with Zambia through the meetings of the Joint Committee that unites the two countries at various levels. Addressing the summit's final press conference, President Sisi stressed the importance of TICAD continuing to support the comprehensive and sustainable development of the African continent through its three pillars, and the necessity of effective follow-up mechanisms to realize the African development vision. During his meeting with the president of the Communist Party, President Sisi expressed his aspiration to strengthen channels of interaction and cooperation with Japan to contribute to enriching bilateral relations, as well as to benefit from Japan's experience and expertise in many fields. During a meeting with the chairman of Mitsubishi Corporation, Sisi stressed the importance of Japan as a strategic partner for Egypt. Egypt, he asserted, has the potential to be an important hub for all the Japanese industries, well known for their competence. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi arrived in Kuwait on a two-day official visit, during which he will hold talks with the Emir of Kuwait and senior officials. During the visit, joint cooperation agreements will be signed between Egypt and Kuwait.